We are back here at the desk here at the Rainbow Six North American League. I'm your host, Doe, of course, Jesse Chick, Caliber Jacob with us, and Joe Burrow, all the way from the Sonics team house. Do you live at the team house with the rest of the team? Do you have your own place?
No, I'm in Philadelphia now.
Oh, okay,
So
all right.
Actually, really
promoting in.
Yeah. So what I did was I moved out to Harrisburg when I started full time with the Sonics. So that's in Pennsylvania, and then we went to Land League. And then Land League's in Vegas. So I had to move across the country to Vegas. Lived a year in the house in Vegas.
Nice.
And then moved back to Philadelphia where our facility's gonna be.
Oh.
So I've moved across the country twice now. It wasn't that bad. Kind of enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much that I drove to Charlotte from Philadelphia. So
that's nice.
That doesn't seem like too long of a drive. It's what, like 6-7 hours?
It was like 9 hours, and then with traffic it was 10. So,
there you go.
Yeah, not too bad.
Okay.
Not too bad. Sounds like a typical commute in LA, 10 hours. Yeah, it's about right. Well, let's go into our next match. It's going to be XSET versus TSM, a battle at the top of the standings. And this one's going to be great, right? Because TSM already has jumped out to a little bit of a lead. They're 3 points ahead in the standings. They could kind of put themselves on a soft lock, I guess you could say, for the Berlin Major if they're able to get 2 regulation wins this week, as we talked about a little bit earlier. But XSET is certainly going to be a threat. They are the number 2 team currently, although maybe after the last match, not currently, but it changes so much. They're all so close.
Yeah.
Either way, it's going to be a really, really tight match for sure.
This is the 5th time these two teams have played one another. TSM have taken every game so far throughout the year and a half that they've played. Now, of course, this is a much better XSET than we've seen in the past, but still, with TSM looking so good, they're looking to expand that streak to 5.
Yeah.
I like the matchup on paper mostly because it's XSET, who are currently the 2nd best team on both attack and defense, and then it's TSM, who is the best attacking team in the league and the 9th best team on defense. So there's a little bit of a skew on the matchup just on paper.
Well, let's match up a couple of the players here specifically in this one, Yaga and Merc. Let's take a look at these two because they're both playmakers for their teams. They're both players that the orgs are going to be counting on today. Let's see how they stack up.
So I wanted to highlight Yaga. He's been playing very well. Top-rated player in the league right now, 1.43 on CGG, 51 and 29 is insane from this young player. He's been playing really good, soft breach, Valkyrie type of roles, clutch machine, insane 1v4 that we saw last week against Beast Coast on Bank. He had that 2v4 with Gomez on Parabellum. Thought he played really, really well, but I think Merc doesn't get the credit that he deserves this stage. He's been doing very well. Even if it hasn't really shown up in the stats, you know, that's not crazy numbers, 39, 35, especially for Merc, but I thought we saw him play really, really well last week, using Yana expertly to clear out the roamers of Astralis, would get that intel with the clone and then follow it up himself. Couldn't use the LMG because Astralis banned Finka against them, but I thought Merc did well enough without it that I'd be very happy to see TSM ban that Finka themselves in future games. Merc coming strong is big because he was the only person last stage for TSM that was positive. That was just a lead by 3, 82 and 90 and 79. And hopefully he can keep that trend up and continue to be a big playmaker for TSM.
I kind of feel like XSET right now is the team that can use Finka probably as infrequently as possible, and amongst every North American team currently would be able to still find some benefit from it, because you give it to Gomez, but Gomez is not using it nearly in the same aggressive capacity as like a Newers or a Pambazoo. He's almost like backline battle medic, using it more for the stims, and just having an LMG there is always going to be a good thing. But Yaga is the #1 rated player on the entirety of the NAL board right now, and he's playing sledge. He's playing vertical. He's not worrying about the Finka crutch, so to speak. So if any team was going to ban the Finka, XSET would be the one that would actually be able to survive from it the best currently.
Certainly could be, and let's dive into XSET a little bit more. Obviously, the squad made a deep run at the Charlotte Major. They've been playing pretty well this stage as well, but they are coming off a loss coming into this series. So they are in a position where they do need to play a little bit of catch-up today, I feel like.
Yeah, and I want to see, again, XSET being able to continue their dominance in defenses. If they can turn up their defenses against the #1 attacking team in the league, then I'm going to be very confident in their ability to take this game. However, they are relying a lot on the clutchability of their players, especially players like Diaz.
Yeah, I mean, looking at their last game against Beast Coast, I thought their roam game got just torn apart. They didn't want to leave when they were playing those offsite positions. They were really trying to win the round in those early games, and they would just always seem to lose players out. They wouldn't be able to stand onto ground. They wouldn't be able to fall back. They really did commit heavily to those roams, and it just wasn't paying off against the Beast Coast that played pretty patiently against them. Going against such a strong attacking team, I am worried we're going to see the mistakes kind of repeat themselves for XSET, but I'm hoping that they've adapted on that and they'll play a little bit more passive, maybe falling off positions a little bit more today.
I want a little bit more creativity from this XSET team too, because I feel like in both the Oregon games that they've played, they had a really nice idea on some attacks. Then for some other ones, it was let's bring 8 nades, let's hit site in a very particular way. It always happened from the same spot every time, and they didn't use multiple avenues of approach, which was interesting because this is the team we've known for a while. They're super explosive in the early round. They understand the value of gaining map control early, and then as the round slows down, you get down to the final execute. That's where things have historically for this team tapered off.
Right.
XSET have the fewest number of unique operators played of any team, and it's by a lot, and that feeds into your creativity point. A lot of teams like SSG, like Sonics, are going for these kind of creative plays where they're bringing out these ops you don't expect. XSET have really not done that. They've only played 24 operators so far this stage. The next lowest is Oxygen, who played 33.
And that's sorry, no, I was going to just add, that's the benefit of the attacker repick, right? Is you have the ability to be able to just throw away your composition and say, we want to bring something that's going to grab you by surprise. So I want to see XSET really start to take advantage of the attacker repick a little bit more and start to really bring the onus into these attacks and force the defender's hand.
So another factor that might go into this kind of lack of operator creativity from the XSET side is that they don't have their coach Bodega behind them in the arena. That's the person who's going to be, you know, mid-game saying, hey, let's try something a little bit different. Otherwise, you kind of make that game plan, right, Joe Bro, going into a match, and then you just kind of stick to it without much flexibility or option for flexibility if there's no one behind you kind of guiding you through that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can actually pre-plan this to a certain extent as well, because you also know what your opponents are technically going to ban the most.
Sure.
So you, like I would go to Xander a lot because a lot of times there would be operators that the opponents would be banning that could affect his lineup, and I would say, Yeti, they're going to ban this operator, so what would you play in this instance if you didn't have this available for this site? And I'd kind of like pre-program him almost to be ready to be in that moment when it happens, to be able to make that switch and identify that immediately. So if that's something that I'm sure Bodega's working that behind the scenes, and if it's not translating necessarily, maybe it's just on the players who are getting flustered and forgetting that, and that's normal because you don't have your coach behind you to reset the emotion.
Could be. No tack timeout taking their last match, right?
That's the thing. XSET is the team that has used the fewest amount of timeouts of any team in the North American League right now, which has been I think that's their Achilles heel. You don't want to use a timeout necessarily when you're, like what we've seen a lot of European teams do. Direct call out, let's fix this for next week, boys. You don't call a timeout when you're down and it's match point for your opponents. You use a timeout to stop a skid before it happens, or in XSET's case, to use it to understand what you can change up tactically heading into the next round. That's exactly what Bodega was doing. That's why they were so effective at the Charlotte Major, and they've not been able to do that this entire stage at all. If they're using a timeout, it's to stop a skid, which is very antithetical to what their game plan has been so far.
Yeah, and absolutely. Like being able to use that timeout is a super powerful tool. You only get one, unfortunately, as a coach. So it's really all you got.
Spoken like if only we could have 5
Can we add more? I mean, okay, so hear me out. 2 30-second timeouts wouldn't be too bad. It wouldn't break. But anyway, so like as a coach, you're coming in and you're just like, okay, I need to use my timeout effectively. So being able to use it when, in your example, when it's, or you're already down by like the 6th round, you only have 1 round of wiggle room to work with. And so even if the players apply everything perfectly going forward, you're really putting the challenge on them to be able to be perfect. So why not use that timeout earlier when you can actually influence things like Bodega's been doing behind the scenes and actually help your team and give them more chances to succeed.
Yeah, true enough. Well, we got to talk a little bit about the other team in this matchup as well. It's going to be TSM, of course, the SI champions, having a very, very difficult, very rough stage 1. But man, have they bounced back and then some. This team been crushing it, top of the standings right now, and looking to just kind of keep the momentum going.
Dude,
top of the standings, and they're not leaving anytime soon, right?
They're back, man.
No way for them to fall because they're already at 10 points. They're going to be up there and towards the top throughout this Playday. We'll see how today goes. If they win over XSET, then they're looking even stronger. I mentioned Merc already, but I think he's been a really good player that's been a little quieter in the stats, but is still having a really big impact when you really dissect those rounds and see what he's been able to do on entry. Yesterday, we saw them play back-to-back Bank, and I liked how they were able to play kind of 2 different styles of Banks. The first time Valk was up, it was a very frag-heavy game against OXG. They really did have to run around and kind of utilize that intel advantage to get a lot of those aggressive defenses. But then against the Strahls, I felt like they were more site-focused, right? Valk was banned out by themselves. They didn't want to play that the second time around, so by changing their operator bans, they really got to play a different style of Bank both times, and I think it really helped them take the win in that last game.
They were always the early adopters of maps as soon as they came into the pool, and that felt like what they were trying to do on Theme Park last stage, and it didn't work out too well.
Yeah.
I think what they're also doing is they will adapt to changes in meta probably faster than most teams will in terms of actually giving something else a shot. And I mean that mostly from, you know how we talk about Goyo usually being the thing that Bolo will not hard crush, but he will play it almost every single round. Then that change to Goyo shields happened, so he needs another shield operator, and he is behind the scenes pioneering how you play Alibi. Way more than I think any other player or team has really put the spotlight on him for. That man has been doing so much work to demonstrate how much a shield, a Bailiff, and the MX4 Storm is one of the most deadly combos in Siege right now, and it's the fact that no one else really has a 1.5 scope that's really worth anything right now.
Yeah, to build off that, the shield too is so important.
It's such a big deal.
There's no 1.5 operator other than, I believe, Echo that has a shield.
I think so, yeah.
All right, let's find out what map we're going to. Between TSM and XSET, the bans are in, and we're going to start off with a couple bans on Oregon and Cafe.
Well, okay.
There you go.
This one kind of starts out with a bang, actually, because TSM and XSET, in terms of what their permabans have been, they're not leading with either of them. This is a map that we've already seen TSM play at the moment once, and they're already deciding it's something that they don't want to concern themselves with. XSET have played it twice, so they're actually pretty happy that that one's gone. No border, no cafe. This is a little bit more normal for TSM because I call them early adopters. They've never liked border. They don't want to play this. If they can at all avoid it, then they will do what they can. And no skyscraper, again, we still have yet to see a skyscraper played the entirety of this NAL stage, but TSM decide they don't want to concern themselves with it, and then Chalet comes into play for XSET, which is a map I almost thought we were going to see today because they have not banned it this entire stage at all. It's almost like I thought they were going to play this today because of how willing they are to do it, but against TSM, there's just something there they don't like.
And yeah, to be able to look at this, I mean, the Chalet ban especially too, Chalet is traditionally a rather attacker-sided map, or considered an attacker-sided map. So with TSM such strong attacks, you would want to take that away, limit them to go to a map like that. We also see TSM ban out Clubhouse, which is super surprising to me because that's actually like one of their most strong attacking maps right now. So
they beat you guys on that.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks for bringing that one up. Yeah. Ooh, we want him to come back tomorrow, Jacob.
True. Yeah, okay. So yeah, their attacks were really crisp. And then XSET banning out Theme is really interesting as well because that's kind of like a 50-50 map for TSM on attack so far. So we're going to go to Villa.
Yeah, and Villa, the TSM's most dominant map throughout SI. They brought it back against Astralis, played a 6 last stage, got just 1 round. So history not great recently for them.
All right, well, a lot of information to work with as we go towards our predictions, find out what the analysts, what the casters, what you at home with the coin think as far as who's going to take this one. First, as usual, let's send it over to the casters. Blue and Stokes are waiting. Just waiting. They're so eager to tell us who they picked. You just can't wait, right?
Yeah, but then John's going to immediately defer his pick to Sam. So are they actually that excited?
Yeah, go ahead, Sam. I was actually just going to take it anyway. So you kind of called it on the ball there, Jacob. So very good job on that. But I got to go with Team Solo Mid. I think they're back to form. They're looking really, really solid right now. And the last thing that I'm going to do is doubt Merc when he's on.
It's going to be the same thing for me. TSM is taking this one, basing it mainly off of recent results. XSET has been struggling recently, even against some teams we generally put on the same level as them. So I feel like TSM is going to be able to take control of this one at the end of the day.
There you go. 2 quick picks for XSET. Didn't seem like it took a lot of thought.
For XSET?
Whoa! For TSM. Yeah, you know, TSM. I was thinking about XSET. I'm still waking
Very
up.
red.
Don't worry about it. Our analysts say TSM. I've just been conditioned to not say TSM over the years from other names. But
we found out how the coin picks what it picks. He thinks about it and then flips it.
Yeah.
It's just a Jedi mind trick, you know. That's how it works. Well, that's what our casters think. We'll check back with them in a moment when the map begins. Now it's time to talk to our analysts and our wonderful guest. And we'll let you go first, Jesse, again. Go for it.
All right. I mean, I agree with what the casters are saying. I don't think there's any reason to pick against TSM right now. I think they've been playing a hell of a stage so far. Their coordination looks fantastic. And XSET, 2 losses last week, not exactly confidence-inspiring. So we'll go TSM as well.
Yep, I'm going to go with TSM as well. Right. Again, Villa, very important for the opening kills in terms of round determination and conversion. TSM's the #1 team in opening kills right now. Got to go with TSM.
Are you going to do it again?
What's your prediction rate at, Jacob? 48, choose wisely?
I mean, I kind of need something to like elevate my... Okay, so here's what I'll say. TSM's the best attacking team right now. XSET's the 2nd best attacking team, so that matchup's already really close.
Okay.
XSET's the 2nd best defensive team. TSM are 9th. So there's a little bit of confusion there, but here's the thing. On the average percentile, they're only below average, TSM are on defenses, by 1%. which isn't that far below because of how competitive every single team is on defense. So because I don't really have much of a reason to pick against TSM given how well they've done, I don't think the fact that they're down here is all that much of a problem. So yeah, we'll go TSM across the board here.
All right, TSM for everybody. Let's see what the coin has to say. Heads is going to be XSET. Tails is going to be TSM. It is. Oh, Tails.
Oh.
TSM.
Not a mind trick.
There you go.
It's
It's not. It's definitely not a psychic manipulation of the physical object. No, I can't do that. I'm a mere mortal, but the coin, however, is a force of nature, the force of randomness, the force of chaos, chance, entropy, if you will. It's not doing very well, the stage, but we don't need to talk about that. Let's see what the fans say about who's going to win this one. I mean, if it's a fan poll on the interwebs, you know it's going to go TSM's way, of course. So that means everybody has picked TSM.
Congratulations to XSET for winning this game.
We're going to get memed on 100%. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, the stage is set for an XSET win. That's just kind of how it goes. Community poll. Let's see what question we have to think about. Going into this map, it's going to be who's not going to win today's match.
What?
Okay, this is tricking TSM fans on Twitter because TSM fans always vote for TSM.
Oh, yeah.
So they're going to vote TSM. That's genius.
Wow.
That's genius.
So then if
Social media.
XSET
So
wins, do we change what they actually said on the prediction poll, or it is just...
But we have
This
this on
is, a,
record now.
this is a different question. Yeah. Well, we'll see how it all shakes down, but this is going to be fascinating. I can't wait either way. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll see who does indeed win this battle between XSET and TSM. Don't go anywhere. The Rainbow Six North American League returns right after this.
I'm Yaga, and this is the NAO.
I swear, XSET must be like really big fans of Deadpool or something like that, because they keep making this sign.
X-Force.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? But welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the NAL. We're getting ourselves ready to jump into our next matchup of the day here. This one's also bound to be a good one, even though our predictions skewed pretty heavily into the favor of TSM. Oops. I still think we're going to end up with a fairly close match at the end of the day, and I'm pretty excited to be jumping into it. Going to be on Villa for the second time today as well, so lots of freedom given to our crazier players roaming out and about. Held the freedom to do so here on this map, but who will come out on top? But, well, we'll have to wait and see. When these two teams met back in Stage 1, it was won quite handily by TSM, which you guys might be thinking to yourselves, oh, that's kind of expected, but remember the performance TSM had back in Stage 1. It wasn't great. So the fact they were still able to win against XSET gives me pretty good confidence in at least my prediction today that TSM are going to be able to take this game.
Yeah, you know, I definitely think this could be a heater of a game, but it really is up to what we get out of XSET. You know, I'm not sweating too much for TSM minus all of us choosing TSM. I think that that's the biggest thing that kind of makes me worry a little bit. Whenever you see the bold choice, just being one team. You always got to worry. It's just always going to be that little thought in the back of your mind. But past that, you know, I definitely think the ball is in XSET's court to make the most out of this situation. They're very close to TSM when it comes to the overall standings. There is a very serious chance that we end up going to overtime here, but, you know, it's kind of difficult to say as well with TSM having their hat in this ring, because it could go either way. We could see TSM come out with a very dominant showing initially, steal just a whole plethora of rounds away from XSET, really make this game difficult. We'll just have to see, because their play styles match up against each other pretty nicely.
But obviously from XSET, they have still been able to excel to some extent here inside of the NAL, despite the issues they've run into and despite the fact they can't have their coach with them for obvious reasons inside of a live game. Things have still been going pretty okay for the squad. The last two matches, though, have been a little bit of a struggle for them versus Parabellum, and if memory serves me correctly, Beast Coast taking both of those towards the bitter end of it, but then falling apart at the end of those games. Not able to get the closeout that they need, and has led to them now with a few losses. As we were talking about previously, though, the league is still very, very close right now, with the exception of some teams like TSM that are a little bit too far ahead of the curve compared to some other. XSET, though, can make some serious gains here today. Even if they end up with, say, like an overtime loss, that still is going to probably end up having some pretty big implications onto their end-of-season positioning, just due to how close almost every single team is in the league right now.
Yeah, really anything could happen at the current moment, minus maybe some things for Mirage. You know,
yeah,
they're
looking rough
to,
for them. We won't sugarcoat it.
Yeah, they're really starting to get to the end of their rope, so we'll have to see how that goes later on today. But for now, XSET and TSM FTX. TSM, their year initially did not start off too strong, but as you said, they were able to at least pick up a dub inside of Stage 1 up against XSET. But for TSM, it really seems like they're starting to get back to form like what we saw around SI when they were extremely dominant across quite a few maps inside of the pool, Bank being a pretty strong contender for them. Villa playing that a couple of times, but definitely not a highlight, I would say, of their 6 invitational run, but definitely a map to still consider them on with just how these open engagements can go.
Historically, though, at least for Geo, and this is especially relevant considering the recent performances we've been getting out of Geo, this map has been one that TSM have been able to take really great control of in past tournaments. Looking back at like the eras like 2019 and whatnot, where Geo was able to go absolutely huge inside of games on this map, clutching out multiple rounds and being truly the difference maker for his squad. So curious to see if we'll get that same type of performance out of him today, as obviously, again, that goes back a couple of years in Siege history now.
And you can continue to add on to this for this roster as well, because we have Bolo back almost entirely from what we saw in Stage 1. Bolo, in the weirdest turn of events, was actually the worst rated player for TSM in Stage 1. Something I never thought that I would see a day in my life, but yet here we sat. But now, obviously, he's bounced back very quickly. He never lost the ability, obviously. It was just really how difficult things were for that turnaround between SI and coming back to start practicing again for that first stage. But now they're trying to hotly contest for a playoff berth here, or rather a major berth later on, as things have been announced now. You guys know we're going to Berlin, Germany. It's going to be quite the fun affair once we get there, but obviously we have to get these teams set up and see who's going in the first place. And as we were just touching on, TSM, they're starting to work their way towards that goal.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, so we were just waiting on, I think, a few more players to get themselves readied up, but I believe they are good to go now. We should be just a couple seconds away from starting.
Second observer, are you ready or are you not ready?
Feel bad for our observer team. He's getting sent mixed signals in the in-game chat there for a minute or two, but I think we got it sorted out. And indeed, we are going live, despite what Merc just said in the chat. Let's get into it, ladies and gentlemen. It's XSET versus TSM for the second time today on Villa as well. A best of one, so both teams' cards are fully down on the table. It's take everything or take potentially nothing, as it's only one map being played out.
Well, the words of Merc were, wait, hold on. And then we got in game, and he just simply put.
Wait, were they really not ready after they
or pause? Yeah, we're paused right now. Yeah. We haven't even started the ban phase. We were sitting on the gray screen for the ban phase, awaiting TSM to get set up. Obviously, they're all in the lobby, as we do have the lobby going. So it looks like we're having a tech issue. We're gonna get that squared away, folks, and then we'll be in momentarily. But kind of back to the conversation we've been having about this stage so far, and a lot of the heavy hitters that we've been seeing. XSET has been able to come back back in a very convincing way, but Astralis has fallen off a cliff, and that's two teams that we had really, really high hopes for throughout this entire season of the NAL. Astralis kind of starting to slow down like we were talking about, but for XSET, at least things have looked to at least be as solid as they were inside of Stage 1, especially with how strong they were when it came to the Charlotte Major. They didn't exactly have the greatest of runs, but they definitely had some very serious games where we got to see just how talented this squad is.
Absolutely the case, and we're going to have to see now how Astralis continues to evolve. We knew that this downtrend was going to happen for both them and some of these other teams too, like XSET eventually, but it's not necessarily about how long that kind of high ride lasts, but rather how they can try to resurface themselves from that now that they are running into issues. Will Astralis be able to rebound, or do they slowly kind of just sink down from this point forward? This is the true test that's been put in front of not only them, but some of the other squads like XSET as well that are running into a few bumps in the road, obviously doing a little bit better overall, but still some improvements needing to be made and some issues needing to be get past if the team wants to be able to keep the form that they kept both at the major and everything leading up to it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we're back-to-back villas here. Not exactly the best casting experience, but definitely going to be fun to watch, I can tell you that. With these two teams especially, we saw just how hotly contested our last series was on this map, but it's going to be twofold now with XSET and TSM out in sunny Italy. And Villa, quite the map when it comes down to it. We touched on it a little bit earlier, but obviously we'll do it again for you guys here. The map is just extremely large. It's something that you're going to see quite a bit of roaming on, some late flanks, a lot of playmaking happening. A little bit less so when it comes over to AVG, just because the site is a little bit more condensed. But overall, the building extremely easy to get into for the offensive side. It's just really what they do with that. We saw inside of our last matchup that Beast Coast were pretty slow to the punch initially for a lot of their offenses, and that's where they got caught up, as you guys heard Drip more than likely talking about. They got caught up by that alibi. Yeah, it might be an aggressive character, and you might not be able to shut it down all the times, but sometimes it just works in spades, and that's what they had going for them initially, as Gunner was running amok of BC until they were able to bounce back on their own defensive end. So be looking for a lot of these pretty aggressive engagements as both of these teams look for the opener and to try and abuse the full breadth of Villa.
So guys, just working on fixing Bolo's mic, I believe is the current delay of game, and once we've been able to do that, we're going to resume it. The game is actually already live. We're about to start the ban phase. We're just waiting on, obviously, Bolo to make sure he has a working headset, and then we'll be able to jump back in and get things rolling with that. As TSM obviously make sure everything is good for them, so we'll give them the opportunity to do so before we continue on with this game. I'm going to continue on with TSM's dominance here inside of the NAL, already taking control of first place, looking to keep it here with a second victory versus XSET after already claiming one back in stage one. One of the few that they were able to get, and looking to repeat that success here today. Meanwhile, XSET is looking to get themselves back on their feet after 2 losses on the previous game days, one to Parabellum, one I believe as well to Beast Coast, which has put them a little bit lower in the standings right now as they try to kind of carve their way back into the top 4 to earn a second shot at a major title.
Yes, indeed. And our IT department almost has things fixed here, folks. We're just resetting a PC really quickly to make sure that the audio and everything else is working for our players who want the most competitive environment we could possibly get. That's exactly why we're going to wait until we have that. You can see all the players rearing to go at the current moment. The XSET roster just messing around currently in chat, waiting on things, and still seems to be an audio issue, so hopefully we can have this patched up momentarily and we'll be in game.
Away from that though, TSM making a return, as you mentioned, over here onto Villa. This is not a map we tend to see them play into super often, but historically it is a map the team has felt comfortable on. It's not necessarily one of the greatest picks for them in terms of win percentage, so we've taken a little bit of a risk there. XSET though will feel right at home on a map, but given the play style they tend to go into, we saw it just in the last map with teams like Parabellum and Beast Coast playing into that map as well. XSET plays a very similar game to those two, so you can see probably that same amount of confidence going to be rolling out from the XSET roster once we get ourselves into this map, as they love that kind of free-flowing open map layout that gives them the capability to set up plays, especially with the basement essentially being a free open rotate for the defenders throughout the large majority of rounds, unless the attackers of course want to commit someone directly to be able to counter that back out. So it'll be very interesting to see how it plays for the second time today once we are able to get both of these teams into the server.
Extremely excited for it as well. Kind of a cool stat line that I was hoping to use throughout the game, but I'll just give it to you guys now. You know, this one's free of charge, obviously, but inside of the top 10 players at the current moment, there's only 2 teams that have 2 players inside of that top 10. Do you want to know who it is?
Who is it?
XSET and TSM. Yaga is currently the highest rated player in the entire league, and Spirits is also inside of that basket, with Bolo and Geo making up the rear of the top 10 inside of our player base at the current moment, which is pretty interesting, you know, especially with both of these teams being at the top of the heap as well. It makes things to where obviously we could see a huge pop-off from a lot of these top-end fraggers between these 2 hot-to-trot squads.
Spirits had one of the most dominant performances back at the beginning of this stage, of course, and no surprise to see him inside of it. Young as well, one of the most clutch members of this team, has pulled them out of a bad spot more than once so far in the stage, so we'll look to continue to try and do so, as I'm sure there'll be at least one scenario where we could potentially be able to do that inside of this game. I'm seeing some fist bumps over on the TSM side, so I assume that means we are good to go. I think we are, ladies and gentlemen, so thank you very much for your patience, but we are now finally going live with XSET versus TSM as the first band about to come out here for TSM.
All right, here we go. It's going to be the Twitch ban from TSM, trying to limit the overall impact of the frag department from XSET early on, as well as slowing down a little bit of the drone game. Twitch does indeed get 3 drones, and she has a prep phase drone and her 2 shock drones that we're also very used to. Thatcher's going to get removed, unlike Maverick being removed inside of the last map, so this is going to be a more straightforward affair for the offense. It's going to make a little bit more sense, as a lot of teams just not used to having Thatcher in the mix. So Maya is going to be removed next, and this is going to help them out in a lot of different ways, not only in the mitigation area, but also the fact that they could potentially bring Capitao and his counter no longer exists. Azami is going to round that off, and that's to be expected, but a big thing here is that that's going to leave open Mira on a map that she is pretty solid, especially around the AVG space.
I believe we did see her left in play on the last map as well, and pretty limited use despite that. So this might become kind of a Thatcher situation where she's been banned out for so long that teams aren't even really thinking about potentially bringing her in. But I do agree with you, though. There is that very strong possibility we'll see her potentially thrown into this once or twice if teams are prepared for it. Let's see, though, if TSM is going to be one of those not choosing to bring it in for this first round, just bringing a more kind of free-flowing, is what I would describe this as, layout for their defenders here. So they're going to be going into AVG with a heck of a lot of movement capability among the spread of operators.
Yes, indeed. Especially love the addition of the Legion here for Merc. This is going to give them so much info and just denial to play off of. You know, XSET tries to go for an aggressive front. They step on a goo mine, and all of a sudden you have a pretty solid fight for a defender as long as they know where that goo mine was placed. So we'll see if XSET can work their way around that. Shouldn't be too difficult, as they should know at least that there are goo mines around the area. They have a very distinct noise when they get set down. So XSET should be aware of that at a minimum. For TSM, they've extended themselves towards the northern area. They're going to be holding on to statuary as well as games for some time, have some reinforcements over here to be able to help with some of the angles in from Master, as they'll try and slowly wean themselves off of this full map control. Give it over to XSET, all whilst trading it out for that time bank.
Pretty quiet inside of the first 30 seconds, as some of you at home might have generally expected here. XSET still need to commit to the clear, as Stokes was mentioning before. TSM is actually not going to give over a huge amount of real estate for free. Specifically at the bottom of main stairs there, you're going to notice the position from Achieved still hiding on the inside of the Art Vault. And then a little bit more across over at the top of the stairs. You have your usual hold currently being played by Bolo inside of the midpoint on those stairs here. Diaz and Kino are working on getting the study control to begin the first part of the pinch against Bolo's position. Naga as well with an aid going up top, and it sings. Beautiful damage up against Chala. Brings him down to just a sliver of HP. It's a near miracle he didn't get outright killed by it.
Pretty problematic for Chala at the current moment, but fortunately enough, he can play back inside of site. He's got some smokes to deal with, and there is
there's no way
chance in hell that just happened. Gomez, he's probably playing 4-3-2.
How like 600 IQ would it be if he did see him, but he just didn't react? That would be the next thought in my mind, but we'll worry about that in a moment here, as once again, a few players coming close to winning angles to pick up kills. Spirit specifically ready to execute in against the setup from Bolo. Achieve will be able to strike true, and now Achieve to move out. He's already got 2. Let's make it 3, as indeed we can confirm it now. Gomez definitely didn't see him with the impact being made there.
Well, XSET apparently allergic to drones as they don't clear downstairs at all and just really don't check their corners. That's the biggest piece there. Yeah, they have the Yana clone come in, but it's just a quick check and nothing else in between. Achieved just simply getting away with way too much in his positioning. That's a place that you really want to check out and make sure there's no one trying to sneak past you, and it's an oversight from XSET. It's as simple as that, and a beautiful triple kill here from Achieved. He's not only able to take down Gomez and Yaga, but also Spirits. Last two obviously going over to Merc as they make mincemeat out of XSET early on here, and they're going to have to force XSET to slow down. They have to take their time and make sure that they don't misfire in the same way.
So TSM, definitely a very one-sided start to things. Let's see if XSET can get a quick reset going, though, as obviously Achieve getting away with what he did. Put a bit of a sour position onto XSET's play there and didn't really give them much of a hope of being able to bring it back. Kino certainly doing his best, but only to be able to control one kill for this squad here. That's all they will get out of that round. TSM obviously will be shifting sights over towards the secondary upstairs site for themselves. A bit more of a site-focused setup this time, too. We can see Bolo still...
Well, you say that.
Well, yeah, I say that, but they're kind of drifting offside at the moment. But still, greater capability for those players to fall back and actually kind of outlast things if we get to that point, at least than what we had in the last round.
Yeah, TSM are going for relatively the same kind of setup, extend things out to the other side, try and play around some of these far-reaching bastions and see if XSET can try and force your hand. But as you can also see, TSM, try and see if they can try and find an opening here where TSM aren't exactly looking. This is going to be able to assist them in at least trying to find some pacing. But the beauty of the setup from TSM is that as long as they have some early info, some early insight, can definitely make some adjustments across the board to be able to try and mitigate the blow that XSET is about to send their way. This was pretty interesting when we saw this getting set up initially. They have this deployable shield inside of Master. This is not exactly a place that you see occupied for an extended period of time just because of how the closet can play into this. But with this deployable shield set up practically perfectly, Achieve just has to worry about that little angle every single time he crosses, and it seems like he's actually gotten tagged up from such the spot as we'll be able to tag Yaga here in the elbow. I don't know how much he's going to want to tango back and forth with this stuff. Oh, what a shot from Geo. Downrange all the way from Study. That's the beauty of that EBR at range. You're able to deal some very considerable damage to the offense.
Achieved still looking for targets from the inside of the master windows, also including the walk-in where he's now going to position himself. Kino raiding into this in some part, tries to fire back against it, but no shots connecting. Achieve will continue to maintain the pressure. Oh, and stem back a potential run-in from Diaz. Instead, it's going to be a run-out from Achieve, though. A second one even being flirted with here, but it's all just to hand over more kills to the XSET side of things. Spirits negotiates a second one for the squad, and suddenly they're in charge of the situation as it's brought to a 4v3.
It's suddenly gotten extremely awkward for TSM as they practically give 2 kills over to XSET. But fortunately enough, they still have a lot of map control to work with as they've kept XSET out of Masters. Still 3 on the balcony and trying to use their Gemini clone to get extra info on the bathroom area. Also, the panels here for the triple wall, they're completely muted off, so those Selmas aren't going to work out either. TSM, they might be down on gunpowder, but they're definitely up in map control as well as brain. But unfortunately enough, Kino, he's going to get tagged up for TSM's sake, but Merc will finally be able to finish him off. Diaz has been down. Spirits is on cooldown as he's already used one of his adrenal surges, so he won't be able to respond as quickly as he wants to. Chala aware that there's more than likely someone hopping inside of the bathroom, and he's extremely correct. They try and challenge him out here for Astronomy as he'll back off, but XSET have to make a move with this timer dwindling.
Indeed, the pickup still made for Merc, and thankfully as well. We do still have Finka in play, so Diaz's HP can be brought a little bit further into the positive. Gomez with a strong opening entry as well to knock out Merc, but the fire back from the other side is apparently not going to be enough. XSET trades out. The trades themselves coming in from the defense and is able to close down on their first attacking round.
Yeah, TSM going a little too hard when it came to the mid-game there, throwing themselves to the wolves outside on the balcony, especially for Bolo. He goes for the really long swing, and, you know, back in the day, that would have worked with a 3-second timer, but with a 1-second timer, you're more than likely not even going to get to the point where you can challenge him before he has info on you, and secondly, you're now a threat, or rather, you're now being threatened from all of the offensive unit, and you have no idea where any of them are, except for maybe one guy on the balcony, and that's exactly what happens to Bolo. He tries to make his way back to the window, and and he dies from somebody across the way on top of the roof. You really can't do anything about that situation when all of the default cams outside should be destroyed. This is a professional team, so just very, very hard decisions being made there for TSM. So see if they can try and right their wrongs now as round 3 is on the docket. And we're going to have Mira along for the ride for the very first time.
So Mira will finally be swapped into the loadout here. Didn't really see it get used by either team on our previous map when she was allowed into play, but Achieved really going to have some plans to make use of her here. So we'll see her finally brought out for the defense on TSM as they go for their tertiary site defense downstairs here in kitchen. Before potentially either going back at the rotation again or maybe even calling a pause here. Potentially if XSET is able to take control of a second round for themselves. TSM, though, still with a lot of upstairs presence in this, mainly spurred because of the fact that we have the mirror windows in play from Achieved, and Achieved himself looks like he's going to be sitting up behind one of those, just on the outskirts of the master bedroom here to stop some of the initial clear pressure from XSET and hopefully delay them to a serious extent here.
Well, fortunately enough, they got plenty of time, but how much life do they have, John? That's the real question. A bullet meets the dome of Spirits, and he'll go down. And unfortunately, Spirits' favorite operator to play with XSET, well, it happens to be Finka. And now that's gone too. TSM can now rest and see what the next decision will be from XSET. Already gotten one of the biggest game animals on XSET taken down, so don't have to worry too much more about it. Just have to make sure that all of the entry points to this defensive site are shut down. That way XSET can't try and find an easy way into the site. Working their way back and forth to try and find a drone there, but not able to find it too easily. Gomez will be able to at least propel himself forward into bathroom. On to drone, but knows one's around the astronomy stairs space. Has a nitro, but Gio's going to back off as Chala's actually going to get taken out by Kano. Actually, him running the OSA at the current moment, so that could actually assist them with getting this plant down later on.
This does mean that the position upstairs will be slightly more exposed, so they'll have to watch out for that, specifically as Bolo here tries to continue to maintain that presence and ensure that Achieved also can keep himself alive. Problem is, Achieved is no longer going to be supported from Astro. The good news, though, they don't expect Bolo to come out swinging like that. He negotiates the initial trade inside of Astro, picks one up. Yeah, Kino's now got site control by picking up his own kill, but they've lost the case, so this means nothing to the overall scope of the round at the moment.
Kino does have some smokes to be able to try and play this out against Gio. Nitro Saw is going to catch him. Oh, it will! Kino, ill-advised, walks back into laundry and is blown sky high. Yaga will get one and is down to the clutch from Bolo, and he makes it look too dang easy for TSM. The Thorn gameplay, well, it pays off. TSM FTX will take another round.
Although with the heads-up play, they're not wanting to extend that 1v1 into a super overtly tense scenario. He just goes right for the frag, and it works out beautifully for him there. On top of the other aggression we saw from him, yeah, didn't end up saving Achieve's life out of that scenario, which was the main point of his hold on the inside of Trophy, but still got the job done at the end of the day. That's probably what the team cares about the most here. It's TSM back in control of things at a 2-1 scoreline, and they're going back at their rotation again now as they return for the first time to AVG.
Port Spirit's getting picked off early in that round, and that really could have been the big game changer for them as they go into that mid-game with more bodies up. Spirit's here with that LMG as well as the ability to heal up a lot of his comrades, and they can more than likely play into the last portion of that round in a completely different way. They kind of have to try and throw themselves at the site, and it works out in a certain sense, but I mean, obviously with Bolo shooting like that, you're always going to run into a wall eventually, and it looked like TSM ended up winning that, but I can't exactly remember what the question was.
So that was the problem, was our social media person, I think, tricked the audience and gave them a question of who is not going to win today's match. TSM fans doing what they do, I think he was hoping that they would all blindly vote for TSM. And they kind of did. So TSM fans, potentially some XSET fans too, voted for TSM to not win this match.
A bunch of bronze.
So if they
users.
lose, it's your fault, basically, is what we're saying.
Yeah, honestly, I like that. I like having...
You can finally put the accountability on the audience instead of us.
If there's any situation where I can have zero accountability, that's the kind of situation that I want personally. Just makes things so much easier for your psyche, you know? But past that, back into the game, Chala, I mean, he's practically on his deathbed at the current moment. Hasn't even gotten to use a smoke just yet, and don't really know how this exactly happened. I do believe it was a frag grenade from Yogg, but hard to say at the current moment. Speaking of Yogg, he's gotten some control downstairs inside a piano and has broken up quite a few of these walls. He's going to use his last frag grenade to try and hold on to Red as he backs up, and Won't pass backing up. Merc's going to try and push himself forward. He'll be able to get a drone and work his way back towards the top of red, but XSET hasn't given up enough of this story just yet. TSM still trying to soul search and see where XSET has placed themselves across this map.
Kino included in that tally there as he sits on the outside of the aviation windows here. No clean capability for him to get through, but Gomez has found some access to the site, unfortunately not in the cleanest fashion, as ended up having to step on a goo mine on the way in. Thankfully, I don't think anyone from TSM is in the neighborhoods. They wouldn't have been able to gather a whole lot from that there. The drone helping out to allow for a quick takeout of any additional goo mines, but it's also removing the obscurity, of course, of the Nook push, as firing out those shots is going to take away from the obscurity of the push itself and probably ruin any opening frags this team would have liked to get against TSM's setup here.
Yes, indeed. I mean, you can see XSET, they've been slowly working their way towards site, but TSM, just because of their utility usage, they've delayed so much time. They'll be able to at least get a kill for this. Gomez taking a very small portion of damage. Honestly expected a little bit more out of Achieved right there, but Merc is good for us. He'll take down Gomez. Yaga will refrag onto Geo. So claim his life coming up red stairs. Fortunately enough for TSM's sake, they still have so much utility to try and box out XSET when it comes to this door. They'll take down Bolo, and Merc's starting to take some heat of his own. Doesn't really know where he wants to go with this just yet. He has to try and help Chala stay alive here as the smokes will continue to go out onto the vault door. Try and hold them back on Skull. They've wrapped themselves around here. Spirits is going to try and find the body in behind the bar, and he'll do just that, but Merc will take him down instead. It's a 1 versus 3. They know where Merc is. The pre-fire is coming through. Has no ability to try and stop this, so he has to try and take the fights instead. And XSET will take the round because of it. So many early picks going their way and able to translate that into quite the take when it came to the overall site control.
Yeah, very similarly to the other lost round from TSM, XSET are able to win out those very pivotal opening gun duels in their favor, largely spurred by TSM's own aggression. So they set themselves up to a certain extent to go down there inside of the late round by putting XSET into a position where they can easily close out on the site defense with what I believe there was a 4v3, eventually turning down to a 4 versus 2 against the TSM setup. So that's the second one going up on the board for XSET on a different site as well here. So a little bit of a lack of consistency of control for TSM. They're going to try and get this back for themselves over here inside of Trophy. But this as well, if I remember correctly, it was taken by XSET the first time it was played out. So TSM had some improvements to make on their own formula here.
Now, I will say I really like the setup from TSM there. I just wish they would have done more with main stairs and study as an overall unit instead of trying to throw things more towards like the central hall and Skull and get these flanks off and stuff like that, because XSET wasted so much time trying to get to a point where they could actually just hit the site. If most of the force from TSM is around the site area, there's a very good chance that they end up taking that round, but obviously nitpicking at the end of the day isn't going to do too much, and their overall focus, well, it's on round 5, as so is ours. TSM going to be setting things up on this top floor, holding things around Trophy and Statuary. Obviously have some presence around the kitchen area, trying to hopefully slow down XSET's onslaught when it comes to this floor. They want to try and get in and get some frag grenades around the area, or hopefully take down some of the roam game from TSM. Achieved is going to be back in this very similar area that we saw him get tagged up in last time, but he wants to try and play this out aggressively. He's going to pre-rip the nitro cell, waiting someone to open up this far window, and this could be the kill for him quite easily, but you can see Spirits also looking for him via this hatch down low. Now he's going to break the door open, and obviously this is going to be an audio cue for him, so this could really go either way. It's a coin flip on if Achieved even tries to peek this hatch. Nitro cell back out. Really no answer for this from both sides just yet. Back and forth they go. A drone in here. I do believe a Rotero drone, yes indeed, from DS. So be able to get rid of that deployable shield and force Achieved back into concrete.
Chiefs still waiting for play capability to come out from this position on the outside of Master. Not going to find it anytime soon. Now Rotero drone will spur him back a little bit. Deals with the Thorn Trap set up just a little bit next to him. But obviously he's not going to take out the laser gate, as there's no way to fully remove those. Diaz will continue to move forward with these Rotero drones, though, looking for any potential targets, but at least as far as this one is concerned, not going to find anything. Just wanted to get a little bit more drone out of that one. Looks like they pretty much completed the task and are going to be getting the confidence needed to move in a moment. Not only that, but the nade is striking true. It's going to be able to take out the defensive setup here from Achieved. Bolo, though, from across the way, once again snipes out one of the players attempting to entry. That'll be Gomez ending up going down, and still an even 4v4 setup between both teams now.
It's a huge issue for TSM as they lose the main wall, but hopefully they can try and play it around the two side spaces here on this top floor. The big portion of this being Chala's heavy lifting that he'll try and do in astronomy. Have to worry about Merc's position as well, as this is usually the first thing that's cleared as soon as they swing concrete. You have to worry about that far angle as well. You can see Spirits flicking back and forth as he continues to try and eye bench as well. Frag grenades in, this timer continues to dwindle, and they'll be able to at least reset the laser gate, which is going to delay even longer for TSM and allow them to reclaim their forces. An Adrenal Surge now will try and assist in the health department and hopefully help out XSET when it comes to their frags. Merc will go underneath at the Nitro Cell, and a kill for him as he'll knock down the case holder. Yaga's going to lose some HP, and they have to try and work their way in, but Bolo, rather Geo, with a huge prone. It's all down to Diaz, who's inside of Master, working his way through the breach, and he's dead as rights to Bolo as he'll take him down. TSM looking very strong inside of that one as they give up the site just enough with the response already preloaded. As Merc drops down, they continue to hold on to bench with Geo. It's just very well done. Well, exactly what you would expect out of a lineup that just recently lifted a hammer.
TSM put some ice on the early round aggression as well, and were able to save the large majority of their player count as a direct result of that, and do exactly what Stokes had mentioned, kind of set up a trap for the XSET members to lure themselves into, and they do exactly that. Take that master control, try to execute directly into Statuary, but that's exactly what TSM wanted to have happen because they had all the retake angles preset specifically for that.
I think the big problem there for XSET is if you're planning in that situation and there's that many people alive for TSM, why don't you have a body downstairs? Why don't you have any information on what's going on in that area? It's the most default as default gets for a plant inside of Statuary, and obviously TSM are going to know how to try and mitigate that. And really the only reason that TSM backed off and were willing to give that up to XSET is because they knew that that positioning downstairs was up for grabs, and it worked out extremely well. XSET overplays their hand, they now have case control down in Statuary, and now the rest of them have to try and play out of Master and get even more frags so they can pick up this case again that's now in the defensive hand. So just makes things super, super difficult for them overall, and XSET with another banger of a round.
XSET now looking to try and tie things up with this final round on the attacking side as well. If not, it'll be a slight advantage over to TSM coming off of it. The same that we saw from PB back on the previous half here. A little bit of a slip up from Yaga, but quickly correctable as he has to go down and pick up just a new drone for himself. Spirits will get the opening kill this time around, being able to find out Bolo, probably catching a mid-roam, and indeed I think that's the case as we see his phone down there just outside of the trophy connector. Gio's going to get spotted, of course, by this phone call now going out to not only him, but the rest of his teammates also, so he'll have to cool off his own aggression just for a moment to be able to deal with this first.
XSET are concerned with the entire map at the current moment, and honestly they should be, as there's body after body around this entire area. Merc's going to be able to drop off and avoid certain death from that LMG. A Nitro Cell will go wide on the top floor, and actually on a second notice, it's Spirits to go down via that Nitro Cell. So actually it'll be picked back up from the Adrenal Surges and have a little bit of extra HP to play around, but obviously not going to be exactly the greatest of situations for XSET past the two big kills that they've gotten onto TSM, but they still have to work their way towards this site. Shouldn't be the biggest issue, though, is they still have the sledge up and fully healthy. Yaga should be able to break up a lot of this flooring, making it extremely complicated for TSM to try and pick up this one.
Chala moving back in, just trying to deny as much drone intel as possible. This is going to be huge for XSET's confidence to be able to swing in and take out the 3 remaining players on TSM. Thorn's Guy's going to go off, but so does the Nitro Cell from Chala, bringing these numbers back down to a more palatable point for TSM as they finally manage to knock out one of these attackers here. Less than a minute remaining. We've got a big play being built up here by Geo right now, but is it preset? Is XSET going to be able to find a counter to this almost instantaneously? Does TSM now as well have the defensive setup to be able to counter out the play downstairs? Well, we got the answer to the first question, and the second one is right around the corner. All falling to Chala now in a 1vx, and he cannot maintain as Pantry gets pushed. XSET tie us up at 3-3 at halftime as they take one more round at the end of it.
Very well done from XSET. Cool, calm, and collected, and aware of the potential flank coming through from TSM. We've been seeing a lot of aggressive plays when it comes to the last minute here on Villa today. So a good read from XSET overall. Didn't exactly have any info on that, but just having DS in place there was all they needed in order to open up the remainder of that round and give them a chance to work their way into sight and play out the trade game in the dying moments. And that's going to bring us to this 3-3 scoreline. Both of these teams getting their blows in, but definitely not a team that you would exactly give the advantage to at the current moment. We're definitely going to have to see how both of these teams now do on their respective sides.
Pretty evenly held by both teams in the first half, but as we just saw in our first matchup, the second half can yield fairly drastic changes to either team's performance. Let's take a peek at this first round and see if we're going to still be keeping things at relatively even keel, or if one team is truly going to try and push themselves ahead to a different factor now that they've either been activated or reignited, jumping on the defensive or attacking side. Here comes TSM as they do go for a few small changes to their lineup, initially showing the Montaigne for Achieve. That'll get swapped out to the more expected pick now of a Sledge. And away from that as well, I believe everything is going to remain what was originally picked, so let's see how they commit to this clear now as XSET obviously going to be setting up to stop, but especially over here at the top of main stairs, we have 3 ADSs and the usual deployable shield to support these potential 1, if not 2 players that are going to set up to stop any momentum from TSM.
My Siege brain's finally waking up. We're starting to link together the equations and everything, John. We got the Mav working in, the one that was banned previously on Villa. This is fantastic for 90, as you're allowed to just get the wall open whenever you want to. Yes, Abana can get it from the 90 window, but have you ever thought of a torch that could go through a wall with literally anything attached to it? Unimpeded. You can just torch through it and have a new line of sight. So definitely something that TSM will look to abuse later on if they so choose. Yaga, he was considering it for literally a split second, and then everything else kicked in from his training, and he was like, no, this is a terrible idea. We're not doing this. That was a beautiful Nitro Cell lineup, but not going to be able to claim any TSM member just yet. They are hotly contesting this 90 window, but where's the remaining members of TSM? A little bit of an update. They're actually all the way over on the northern end, and Bolo's worked his way across pretty easily so far, as he's already inside of Boar.
About half the round been played out so far here. Relatively inactive from both sides. Kino's going to change up position from the bottom of main stairs, though, having seen what's being built up and noticing that it's primarily coming from the statuary side rather than from that front entrance to directly contest from Study. To be correct in that read, as that's exactly what we've got being built up here from TSM on their first 2 minutes of clear.
Nitro Cell pre-ripped for Gomez. Potentially has member awaiting him inside of 90. You can just see how they're trying to position themselves. Every single member on both of these teams trying to find a gap in the other's game plan. And Nitro Cell is going to go wide, but you can see it's a game of inches at the current moment. Pre-fires and everything else in between, but it's finally going to land onto Spirits. He just cannot get away from these opening deaths in the last couple of play days, and it's going to actually happen to him here again in round 7. So XSET will start off on the wrong foot, but can they right the ship? M590 up close and personal. He's going to back off as a frag grenade gets preloaded. Stun out as well, and it's Diaz actually to fire back into Achieved. Still plenty of time though. So they've been backed off from the smoke game. These X-Kairos pellets won't allow XSET to rotate out into 90, and that really could have been the play there. It could have been the death nail for round 7, but obviously not the case. I do believe that's the last smoke coming in from Kino, and it will be. TSM, he had the lead at first, but XM at least been able to reconcile. Big shotgun here, not able to claim him the first time around, but will on the second as Merc goes down. M590 for 2 and SMG11 to clean it up. It's all down to Geo, and he's got 0 time and 0 chance, really, to be able to clean things up. Almost the chance for 2 there, but obviously no case and no time to even make it to the site if he wanted to.
Fortunately, not enough courage to be able to challenge the shotgun setup sitting over by the death door position. And this is despite the fact that they had full access potentially to the inside of Gun Vault 2 to give the intel about whether that player was going to actually be there or not. TSM just failing to get together an actual execute setup once they had popped things open and be able to negotiate even an opening frag for themselves. And this combined with the fact they only had the 1 one-dimensional pressure coming from the trophy side of the map. They just didn't really have what was necessary to clear out that defensive setup, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, you know, honestly, I really think that they did have what it took to clean out the defensive setup. I think they did it in the wrong way. Yeah. And what I mean by that is that they could have really abused the verticality there. XSET have so many people alive that you can practically run downstairs and go, okay, where's the default spot that someone's going to sit? Frag grenade, kill. Okay, where's the default spot that somebody's going to sit? Frag grenade, kill. That's just, it's really weird that we didn't see TSM consider that when they had full control of that top end area and still had some time to drone things out and figure out what was going on around Piano and Library. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. TSM, they got their opening kill and they thought that they could strong arm it into the site, but obviously that was not the case, as XSET shut down every single door, including the new one that they made in Gunvault.
And they're getting a full roster swap from TSM during attacker repick here. So Ace, Nomad, Nook, as well as a Montaigne, and then the Yana will end up being swapped in. Not a crazy, scary lineup in terms of trying to throw a curveball at XSET here. There's a lot of operators that, we would generally expect to see, but that's a surprise from Yaga right there. Just doming Chala out of the round here, removing the only hard breach that the attackers have access to now.
You gotta win those. Don't know what else to say there, Chala, my poor boy. It's going to feel really, really bad for TSM in this instance. They're going to immediately try and refrag as Spirits was sitting over the top of the hatch, and they had a decent read on that. But past that, this is definitely looking like an XSET round already, as they have no opportunity to open up a single new hole for themselves. They're going to have to try and work their way through the entire clown house that XSET has set up on this top floor, including some soft angles, even towards the top of Bookshelf. They're trying to slow down TSM in the worst of ways. But you can see Bolo, he's trying to wrap his way around through the other end. Some shots coming through behind Yaga. Bolo has gotten the space, and he's aware that Yaga's more than likely going to swing through, and he's correct, as he'll take him down and at least be able to equalize here before the halfway mark.
Good management of the situation there from Bolo. At least opens up an opportunity now for TSM to get themselves back into it. But as Stokes mentioned, still missing the hard breach is going to become a problem as they encroach upon the site's areas. XSET more than ready for that challenge. DS, in fact, relishing in it to an extent here, as you could see him taking the challenge from the top of the Astro desk, unfortunately with no reply to come in from TSM. So he'll have to change his position. Will try to contest from the inside of Trophy instead. A much safer spot to try and play this out. For XSET getting a little bit uneasy, as they're still waiting to see what the next move is going to be from TSM, and they haven't really gotten anything as of yet. They're going to continue to try and peek out here and there, see if they can maybe get lucky with a potential timing play to take out another member of this assaulting squad.
Bulletproof camera to worry about. Preloaded frag grenade from Bolo, aimed at the barbed wire and cleans that up, so they'll be able to get into Trophy if they so choose. But they have to worry about the onslaught of XSET members here awaiting them. Gomez will be able to take down Bolo, and that's going to make things worse for wear at the current moment. Frag grenade in, and she'll be able to take down Kino and trade things out at a minimum. Nitro Cell to take down Chi, but Gio's still planting. And where is this plant going down? I don't think that they exactly know. Smoke out here, able to tag up Diaz, and really big kill here that was needed, but now it's just down to the Monty, and wow, there's no way Gio just got this. Oh my! What? Gio! Diaz, you can't do that! It's a Monty! You can't pick him up right next to him!
Gio just 1v3 clutched with a Monty. What in the world? I have never seen anything to that caliber of play in about 4 years now of casting Siege. Look, even TSM can't believe it. They've got their faces on their palms. What an insane turn of events for Gionidas as he brings a round for TSM out of absolutely nowhere.
Thin air here. Look at this. Look at how close Gomez is to hitting him in the head, and yet Gio is still able to take down. I cannot believe that. I straight up
Why did they go for the res?
I feel like what happened there was that Diaz thought that if he was able to fake out the res onto Spirits, that he would get Gio's shield to slide, and he had the potential to melee him and then get that nice interaction where you kill the Monty while his shield's wide, right? Well, what he didn't expect is for Gio to know that he wanted that res when he walked up to the body, and as soon as he goes to start, the shield already slides. And it's like, well, I'm now stuck in the beginning of this animation. I'm going to get punched in my face. And yeah, sometimes it just breaks down that way. Not very often, but definitely sometimes. A play that TSM is definitely going to look back on fondly in a couple of years. I mean, Bolo absolutely flabbergasted when we went to the cameras. As you said, just head in hands and just fully belly laughing. Like, no other way to look at that. So amazing stuff here, and honestly, kind of the riskier stuff and just kind of the overall weird things that we thought were going to happen in between these two. These are two teams that whenever they clash, you can always expect some weird instances to go on. So.
Either way, TSM will certainly be happy about being able to get away with that play there. Beautifully done once more by Gio to allow it to happen in the first place. The scoreline, of course, being equalized at 4-4 gives a great opportunity for TSM to take back control over this matchup. We'll have to do so against a now downstairs setup from XSET, with the usual extension coming in up here from Gomez and a few of the other members of this team as they try to hold the Astro as well as the statuary rooms for as long as possible, as there'll be a direct portal for top-down angles on TSM to be used against the site take.
TSM taking their time with the drone game initially, and they really should, as Gomez is on the receiving end, the top frag right now across the board, and he's going to continue to deliver. Achieved will go down, XSET with the opener, but that doesn't mean that TSM can't fight back. We've seen them do it once before here against this XSET roster. Able to get rid of a drone, and Spears will add a goo mine just for good measure to that area. So he'll drop all the way down to the basement, really complicating things for TSM as he attempts to test the info game. Gonna open up the single panel here for Kitchen as TSM now looks towards the sky to try and begin breaking up a lot of the flooring on the top floor and to see if they can try and find any XSET member that doesn't exactly know where these angles are going to be coming from.
On a player at the moment, but as we just saw in the last round, that's not necessarily going to stop TSM from looking for a W here. Nades working their way down. In this instance, more so to deal with utility than anything else, but I'm hoping maybe that they might have been able to grab a bit of damage off of that. It's not going to end up coming true here. XSET kind of sitting in the wings, waiting for their opportunity to play this out properly, which would involve the descent from TSM there. They want to challenge them at the execute. It'll be a little dangerous given what happened on the previous round, but thankfully no shielded operator to worry about this time on the XSET camp. They're just going to have to deal with 5 normal operators they've already been able to knock out. Achieved, of course, only 4 remain, and they don't want to overplay their hand. They don't want to over-aggress when it's not really necessary, so they're continuing to hold pretty passively here. Now with only 20 seconds left, and with them realizing that TSM is going to start to make mistakes like this in the intel game, that's when they're going to jump out to strike. But still, opening kill goes the way of TSM. Case has been immediately dropped by Spirits, though, on a flank. And that's more than likely the end of the execute. They're going to have to frag their way through this here. 10 seconds now remaining on the clock. Diaz taking down 2. Merc to trade out 1 more, but he's got 2 more targets to find and no time left on the clock. So this round's going to XSET.
Yes, indeed. XSET with the game-changing plays that time around, especially for their top floor, dropping off after the initial pick and pushing themselves into different portions of the map that TSM are going to be forced to try and clear later on. But obviously, they didn't have the capability to do that, especially on the basement floor in which they hinged their entire strategy upon, John. Everybody is standing on pantry stairs with a Claymore watching in case, and nobody droned the basement. Not a single person. You just sat in a corner and waited and waited and waited, and TSM showed up with the most important part of the, well, the offensive objective. You kind of need that to do anything when it comes to the actual site, unless you're just trying to kill people. We're going to have a tech pause now as XSET currently leads 5-4 after a decisive defensive end.
Yep, so we're not going to be playing out that round, folks. You guys probably saw it going live, and obviously we had a member of TSM disconnect before the round even started, so this will be rehosted as far as I am aware. We're just going to get confirmation of that from the in-game team, and yeah, they definitely want the rehost. We just hadn't actually got confirmation for the team yet, but we got it now, so we are going to commit to that. Restart this round really quickly and get ourselves back into the game. XSET in control, though, after rebounding from that very unfortunate clutch coming out from Gio, at least as far as they're concerned, very unfortunate, and now taking control of things yet again. 2 rounds to go, and XSET will complete what I would call at least an upset here, given the way we predicted this matchup to close out.
Absolutely. Just remind everybody, every single person, including you at home, pick TSM to win this game.
Right.
So obviously, them down currently 5-4 is some pretty interesting.
Don't forget that community poll too.
Yeah, the community poll. You could have all jinxed
Audience,
us.
You've double set yourselves up here.
I can't believe you've done this.
You've not only predicted TSM to win and jinxed it that way, but then you said they were going to lose in the poll. So you guys at home, you have 0 excuse here.
Yeah, you know, my disappointment is immeasurable and my day is honestly ruined. So, really, I don't know how you guys just don't read. Did you ever consider that?
The
Just
good
read
news
the
is it's
post?
only 1:30 in the afternoon, so plenty of time for you to recover your day.
Oh, that's true. That's true. And, you know, so far so good, at least this week. Fingers crossed, knock on wood, don't walk under ladders. Is there any mirrors in here? I got to avoid those too. A lot of bad juju last week, man. I don't know what happened, you know. I was talking to the remaining, you know, members of our talent lineup, and we were talking about just like how last week went in general. And back and forth we went, and kind of what we rested on was the fact that if you didn't predict that all of, you know, the older squads, kind of like the old heads, the old guard of North America came back in full force, then you were practically wrong about everything, you know. I think that I had a little bit too much trust in Astralis last week, especially. I was just really hoping they'd bounce back, but I mean, as of right now, it really just seems to be TSM's world, as well as like the Sonics coming back in a really serious way. But obviously, we still have some new contenders like XSET that are still making some very serious progress towards a major berth.
Yeah, and once again, just to showcase one more time, I know we talked about it in the last series too, just how close the league is right now. We've got, I think, like 2nd place through like 8th or something in that range is like within 2 to 3 points of each other. It is insanely close right now inside of the NAL, and any one of those 8 teams still has a realistic chance to be inside of the top 4 when this stage closes out, and that would obviously mean they're in a major spot too. So in terms of who's going to be getting them, TSM is a pretty safe bet that you could make at this point. Not locked in as far as I'm aware, but a pretty safe bet you could make at this point. Whereas for the rest of the teams here, they're still looking to try and get themselves into a more solid position.
Yes, indeed. We are coming back into the map right now, everyone, but we also need to update you on a new situation as it updates in the top right of your screen. Yes, indeed. It is now a TSM time out past the tactical. They wanted to be able to talk things out with Gotcha, see what they, or rather Pojo, see what they can potentially fix up for their next offense. They haven't been going as swimmingly as they've wanted.
Yeah, important to note, guys, even though we were just in a technical timeout there, for anybody who's curious about kind of the nuances of how the team communication works, despite the fact that we were in a technical timeout, the coach would not have been unmuted there. He still would have not been able to speak to the team. So if there's input he wanted to give, he would have needed to trigger this tactical timeout as well to be able to actually talk to his team, just because of the ways that the rules work there. So that explains why we just came out of like a solid like 3-minute tech timeout, but we did need to go back into a tactical one for Pojo to be able to speak, just based on the way the rules work.
You can blame it on Blue. He chose veteran difficulty today for our commentary, so we have to make sure that we go back to the Blokes podcast, and it's our 2nd episode. Actually, we had our episode last week and our new one this week, obviously, but thankfully enough, it's a very short episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. It was fantastic. We'll catch you next week as we have our game ready once again here. And just to remind you guys, this has been the teeter-totter of all teeter-totters here today. XSET and TSM going back and forth time and time again, except for XSET. These last 2 rounds have been able to link some things together. They found their spice of life, and now TSM has to try and come in and take it from them. What's the adjustment going to be? Well, we saw TSM flirting with some glass picks earlier on, but obviously TSM really likes to mess around with this op when it comes to their offensive drafts, and they're going to do it yet again with the Nomad coming back in on Geo.
Geo had like a Blackbeard soft picked earlier too, so like
might as well, you know? like to be honest, I'm surprised that every lineup isn't the most troll pick things for every team, and then at the last second they're like, all right, this is what we're playing. Like, I'm really surprised.
It's not like we're limiting their ability to repick or anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I could repick Monty 17 times in one prep phase. You can't stop me.
All right, well, let's get into this round now. As we've got TSM spawn out, they did struggle to take control of this site the last time it was played out by XSET, so they're probably feeling pretty good about their odds to try and surge forward with the lead for yet another occurrence and be able to put themselves up onto map point with not just 1 opportunity to close out, but 2 as well. So if things do go a little bit more awry in their initial attempt to take control, maybe fall back, rely on a site being unlocked, and use that to take things 7-5 here if they want the full 3-point spread from this game. Should it go to overtime? For those who don't know, obviously we're going to split the points 2-1 at that point, and the winner in OT will be taking the 2. The loser will take the 1 for at least getting the game to go that far.
Yes, indeed. TSM, Drone game warming up now for them is XSET. set them back towards site. A little bit stronger this time. Don't want to play as forward for TSM to be able to pick up any bodies. And this is making it toward TSM is taking their sweet time with this clear, making sure that XSET isn't playing around things like red or 90 or potentially bookshelf, but I do believe that they have somebody at the top of main. They most definitely got somebody inside of piano this time, where we could see them try and play around the plant here for default around the vault door. So all the rest of the drones coming in for TSM. XSET will continue to do the dance. Back and forth they go. Get rid of some of this drone game and try and hold on to what TSM's game plan is as they coil around the site.
All quiet across the map right now, and neither team wants to be the first to make a mistake in this scenario, but that's going to play into the favor of XSET. TSM need to find a way to build up the confidence necessary to swing into this site. That was the problem on the last attempt as well. They had seemingly all of the breaches and all of the angles that they would have needed open, but just didn't really have the confidence to play in against the player inside of Gun Vault using a shotgun there. Gomez is going to be able to strike first this time for XSET as he lines up the opener with the Nitro against Merc as well, removing the Finka from play and the grenades that would have been with her. Gomez now gets a second frag against Achieve. The Sledge now down for the count as well. All the frags have been taken out. This is probably the worst turn of events that TSM could have asked for in terms of utility losses. Now they're stunted, getting taken out by a Toxic Babe as Geo tries to go for the plant. It's all falling to pieces right now for TSM, and it continues to just get worse. Diaz with one more. Chala never even got himself into the building. It's a flawless round from XSET, and they're only one more away from closing it down.
Ooh, well, do I break it now? Do I break the news now, or do I wait for the next round?
You can do it now.
Yeah, I think we all lose this one, everybody. I think we all need to go home and need to take our pick rates with us. Just pack it in for the day.
Got that W on the last game. It's all good. Unfortunately, that's the only one we're getting today, I think.
And you know what my favorite part about this is, though? We get to blame Twitter. That's true.
Part. We get to blame the audience for this one.
It is all your fault, Twitter, and everyone sitting at home right now. How dare you not read that social media post before making your decision and immediately defaulting to voting for TSM? Tis.
There it is.
Who's not going to win today's match? TSM. Well, you know, guys.
If just 3% of you read the question.
You can at least have a 50-50 split. You can at least split even.
You could have saved TSM's life.
But you didn't.
But you chose chaos. Okay. All right, we're getting a little too far with this. Let's get back into the game as TSM is truly struggling at the moment with their executes, trying to get themselves into the building. It is on a few select sites, so I wouldn't say they're down for the count just yet here. There's a possibility they might be able to springboard back into this, but XSET knows the game that they're playing into here. They're going to fall back on another site where they've had traditionally success on as well to try and stop TSM from running their own comeback up to 6 rounds and triggering OT.
Yes, indeed. Now, TSM out and about for potentially the last time as they have been undermined via social media. They have to get through XSET twice here in order just to trigger overtime. And it all starts now. They're going to work upstairs trying to grasp a hold of Master and allow Achieve to work a lot of this flooring. Bolo would do fantastic up here as well, not only with the breaching charges, but obviously IQ's utility. Very strong when it comes to verticality, as you can get rid of a lot of the electronics inside of the site. And well, speaking about the site, this isn't exactly that, but Gomez is at least protecting the top floor of it, trying to make sure they can't rip this thing open like a can. Spirits will hold on to the far window as of right now, and TSM, they're going to go back to a very similar playstyle to what we've been seeing up until this moment, where we see Merc to start get aggressive inside of Master. Frag grenade out towards Concrete, but most of the damage going towards XSET via gunfire, especially after Merc can take down Gomez.
Confident opening kill for TSM. A big change of pace from what we've been seeing in the previous few rounds as well. Now they need to follow it through here, and they might very well be able to easily do so as they track down at least Spirits. He goes running with his tail tucked between his legs after being spotted out there inside of the trophy connector. He'll try to fall back though and will make it out alive back over towards the main stairs, so should have no problem rotating into a more playable position to wait out the rest of this round.
All patience for both of these teams. Set, looking to equalize here. Yaga with quite the cheeky angle under the 90 window with quite a bit of potential as long as he's able to hold on to the area down low. I don't know if TSM's going to even begin working that way, though, as they do have a lot of control over the top of the site. A pre-placed Nitro cell that Bolo's been able to mark out, but another one's going to be able to claim quite a bit of HP off of Merc. Sells 2 Adrenal Surges that he should have up in time before the execute. We'll see if he tries to use those now, or if he wants to try and save those for his teammates. Achieve will continue to sledge things up, and he's found himself a target, but luckily enough for DS, he has some time, and he'll be able to skip her off before any damage is dealt.
Still, though, a lot of presence being forced off of the site or onto an exterior angle by these TSM top-downs. So the job is being done by Achieved as he's able to force the pressure to the outside. The problem, though, is that it's forced it right into the face of the TSM execute. Kino goes for 2, drops the case in the process, and now makes this a heck of a lot more winnable for XSET. Yoga now finding the 3rd frag against TSM's execute here. Merc goes down. Geo and Achieve must somehow bring this back from the brinks, otherwise it'll be a 7-4 victory for XSET, and it's looking like it'll be the latter of that outcome there. XSET shut it down and take control of this matchup today versus TSM.
Well, GG, there it was. We didn't even have to wait an extra round. XSET are able to get it done even though the leadoff pick goes to TSM. They play it out very, very swimmingly. I especially love the I love the pickup from Kino there. He knows that TSM really enjoy going for that pantry plant. So what's he do? He just sits inside of there with an M590, and TSM are not aware that somebody's going to be playing around that area. And it is 2 quick slugs and 2 quick kills for him, as they're able to claim that round and claim the dub up against what was the #1 team in all of North America until XSET took over.
Well, for TSM, some hesitation on the attacking side alongside a few other issues stopped them from being victorious here today and repeating the victory they had versus XSET earlier in stage 1. The team will take their first loss, ironically, against one of the few teams that they were able to actually take down in the previous stage. So we have to see what the future holds here for TSM, as that was a much less confident play than we had been seeing in some of their other games.
Yeah, TSM just not really on the same page in some certain circumstances, which really caught them off guard when it came up to XSET's firepower. Just claiming way too many lives in a lot of different ways. And then when it got over to the offensive side, TSM...
attacking side again, right?
Yeah. And then when it got over to the offensive side, TSM, a lot of the times, were slowing things down pretty early, even when they got the pick, and it allowed a lot of gameplay or game-changing plays to be made by XSET on that defense. It really helped them to propel themselves to this victory. But folks, that's going to do it for us here today. That's your first 2 games off the board. We have 3 more on the docket, so do not touch that browser. So we have an analyst desk coming up right after this. We'll see you soon.
Hey, we are back here at the Rainbow Six North American League desk. Doe and Jesse Jacob. Joe, here with you as well. All the J names pretty much in existence. We're only missing a couple. We'll add those as the stage goes on. And over
good,
in
Joe?
Vegas,
You okay?
we have a player whose whose ID
Very
does not
displeased.
begin with J. We got Spirits standing by. Spirits from Team XSET getting that big win over TSM. First team to deliver a loss to TSM this stage. XSET seemed like it was getting a little bit shaky there, but it came back in a big way. What did you talk about as a team between last week and this week that you think helped contribute to the win today?
I think last week was a fluke. We had, I don't know, we didn't play like great at all. We trolled a lot, and I think this week we put more work in our practice and stuff, and it showed on the game.
Yeah, it definitely did.
Despite having a bit of a weak week last week, you guys still have Yaga on your team, who's a top-performing player statistically in the league right now. What do you think it is about Yaga as a teammate, as a player, that makes him so successful, stats-wise, in the server for you guys?
Yog might be the most consistent player I've ever teamed with. Like, I don't know how he does it, but he's always like getting his strikes, like impactful, and he's always like, I don't know how he does it, but he's so good.
All right, so when preparing for this game against TSM, were you guys shocked at all that they went to Villa based on your history and them not having played it a whole lot? Was that a surprise for you?
Nah, it was either like Clubhouse or Villa that we were thinking, and we won Villa. So, I mean, we were prepared for the Villa, and there's nothing more to say about it. I don't know. I always lost to them on Villa, but now I beat them. So,
Give me the the status update so far for you guys as a squad. You've played more than half, or you've played half of your NAL stage games so far, and you're doing it without Bodega in the back line for you. Is that a really big factor right now, or do you think you guys are doing okay without him being there on game day?
I mean, we're doing okay, but Bodega has a big effect on us when he's behind us. Like, his energy is amazing. Like, it brings the best out of us, and not having him behind us is sad, but we gotta deal with it. So now we okay with it.
Yeah, you got to work through it. So I got a question for you, one more before we let you go. You're on a good trajectory now to get to the Berlin Major if you keep going with the results that you've gotten. What's the biggest thing that you took away from what happened at the Charlotte Major that you think is going to help you do better in Berlin?
For Diaz and Gomez, that was their first international event, so they learned a lot about the EU playstyle, Brazilian and stuff, and APAC obviously. And I think for the Berlin Major, if we qualify, I think we'd be more ready, and yeah, we'll be more prepared.
Yeah, just get some of those land jitters out of the way, right, from a good performance in Charlotte. Cool. Well, thank you for stopping by and chatting with us. Congrats on the win today over TSM, and good luck with the game tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
All right, there you go. Spirits from XSET, a man of few words, but many shots into the bodies of his opponents. Today, not as many as, in previous days, but still positive scoreline. Doesn't hurt when your team is going up against a squad like TSM. 7-4 victory for XSET.
A very important win for them. They now sit at a 70% chance of making it to the Berlin Major, thanks to Spur for those. So already looking very good for XSET. This win upsetting all of our expectations. Coming through, Gomez 14-7, 2.0 overall KD ratio, and 4 opening picks. Definitely the MVP of this matchup for me. He was, he's a classic Gomez, right? Running through with those LMGs, having a good time.
Yeah, looked like content creator Gomez a little bit.
Little bit.
Might have just been me from the way he was playing a whole bunch, his roam presence on defense. He was everywhere. The Finca is a nice boost. Again, that pun not intended. It very much felt like he was doing what XSET have been utilizing Finca for so far throughout the entirety of this stage. But on defense, that's where I saw him in way more entry engagements than I think I've really ever seen him in so far this stage. So him leading the charge like that is actually really good, given the fact that all XSET players still have that kind of playmaking or clutch factor as they progress.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at this, obviously, we all guessed that TSM was going to take this. And
oh, did we? I didn't notice that.
Actually, I can change my guess now, right? No. Yeah, so looking at this, like TSM obviously went in with a game plan because there was more VOD footage on XSET specifically than XSET had of TSM, because TSM's only play last stage was a 1-7 loss to Astralis.
Right.
But unfortunately, in that game as well in Astralis, they won 0% of their attacks. And arguably, they should have won 0% of their attacks in this one, but Geo had that huge clutch. So, like, TSM obviously are still struggling to try and figure out this map, which like leads me to ask, what was in the VOD prep for TSM that they saw that they wanted to take this risk and take XSET to Villa, which they performed at the major just fine?
And I actually thought a lot of their like early attacks were kind of fine. Like I thought they did a good job clearing out those roamers, getting space around the bomb site. But when it came to actually executing, it felt like they just weren't prepared for a lot of the swings that XSET were going for, weren't prepared for a lot of the positions that XSET were playing inside the site. That last round Kino, top of the pantry stairs, completely shutting down the push. So would have been nice to see that refined a little bit more at the end, but just didn't happen today.
Well, let's get into a couple more of those rounds a little bit more in depth. We're going to start out with round number 2, and this is one you wanted to look at because this was something where you had a little bit of a point of criticism for TSM there.
Yeah, not the best moment for TSM. So they're on defense. We'll play it now. It's going to be a first-person clip. And they're in a good position, ultimately. They're holding here on Trophy Statuary bomb site, of course. And they get the opening pick. Geo going to be going from across the map. That was inside a study, got that opening pick. And this is a good spot from TSM, but Achieved makes an interesting decision here. He's in a strong position behind the shield and master, then aggresses through into the closet. And Joe, something you've told me in the past is that, you know, when you're on defense, you need to get aggressive kind of in the early game and when you're down in a man disadvantage. TSM are up. They're in the advantage state right here. But still, they do this. Why?
Yeah, absolutely. Like TSM here is trying to force a play to try and get the pressure off of the balcony. But like you said, they already have the opening pick. So, and as we saw on the bed in master bedroom, the shield was still up. The Aruni gate hadn't been burned yet. So my question is, what for TSM were they seeing there in which they had achieved rotate to closet, which is already a suspect position, because there's no Jaeger ADSs to protect him in there, and there's still 4 nades on the table. So he's moving into a more adverse position to potentially get naded. So now he feels like he has to do something. So now he's put himself in a position where he feels like he has to do something. He hops out the window, dies. And then now Bolo's trying to be a good teammate, save his teammate for the cost, and try to get a trade there. Ultimately comes out the window as well, can't find the trade, dies, and now they're at a disadvantage for rounds, so, or kills. So
yeah.
Certainly doesn't help. Let's go to round 7, though. This is when things started looking a little bit better for XSET. Now, XSET, obviously, they ended up winning it, and it's rounds like this that are the reason. This was a pretty nice recovery by them.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I was talking about where XSET, you know, they were losing a little bit in the early round. It's going to be a man advantage by 1 early for TSM. But then once they get into sight, they take down Spirits, awesome. But now I love these little swings from Gomez and Diaz. Gomez has, I think, 3 swings, starts with the first one, Diaz gets the second, and then 2 more from Gomez. But it's just these little bursts of aggression, and it's unfortunate TSM weren't expecting them. They even get a drone onto Gomez there at the start. Gomez gets into aggressive position around the map. Got air jabs in here, but still, it's going to be these little swings. Diaz is first, and then it just keeps being followed up by Gomez.
Which is the kind of thing that I feel like if you're TSM, you should have known XSET was going to play like this. Not even because they already have a VOD on Villa so far through this stage. Granted, it's their Mirage one, so you wouldn't think it would count. But it's still the kind of thing that XSET absolutely will do every round, and TSM don't really have that much of a proper counter. They even try a little bit of a swing out, but it's super late. Look at where Giaz is, like he's rotating to. Chaw's now tasked with Diffuser. Merc's trying to make a play, and all Gomez has to do is swing with the Mossberg twice, get 2 frags, and it leaves Geo out on an island who can't do anything even on a study rotate, and it just ends there. It feels like you got to expect someone from XSET to swing with a shotgun. That is just what they do, and yet we still find ourselves in this hole.
And this is what, to applaud XSET for this is what they're doing better on their defenses than TSM was.
Yeah.
Because in this instance here, they're down a man, so they know they need to deconvert that advantage, or that opening kill, in order to have a chance in that round. So they're making those little quick peeks to try and see if they can get that kill back. They not only get 1 for free, they get another 1 for free, and they get another 1 for free, and then another 1 for free. It's a 4v1 now for Geo, and he just can't win that with only 3 seconds left. So,
true enough. Guess what? We got a bonus replay for you today. That's right. Usually we just do 2. You know, we'll try to keep it
because
under time,
this one was cool.
Exactly,
awesome.
But you can't help it. What's the first word that comes to mind when someone brings Monty to the map, huh?
Slow.
Pain.
How about clutch? I was thinking clutch, and that's exactly what Gio did with it this round.
Nah, I mean,
it's a beautiful thing.
Moments like this are always crazy because Gio is only looking to plant, and there is smoke coverage, but he's having to throw his own smokes himself to get this off. So not only does he have to get both of them in position, one to cut off the rotate or the kill hole, and the other one to stop him right from where he's meant to plant. But as soon as that happens, his coverage dies from the opposite side. So now all of a sudden it's just down to him. ADS's finds one kill. ADS's again. Jaeger has zero clue he's actually in that spot. And then in the midst of it, all of a sudden, you thinks he's got the ability to revive. He doesn't, and then Gio on ADSs again. That's the kind of Monty clip that Monty mains everywhere, Veli, are all going to see if they can't repeat at some point and say, this is the reason why we play this operator. Gio is a clutch master. That's why he was able to pull this off. That is not like the example of skill that every Monty player will be able to bring to the table, but it's a nice moment. Unfortunately, it's the only really good thing that TSM had going for them on attack. So we
learned two things, I think, in that last series. We learned that Monty's clutch. You should pick him all the time in your ranked games. That's obvious, you know. And then the other thing we learned is that having everyone and the coin pick you to win a match is like the NAL kiss of death. So you gotta avoid that. That's right. Well, we got an exciting one coming up. It's going to be Dark Zero versus Astralis, a Charlotte Major Finals rematch. Do not miss it. NAL only heats up when we come back.